Welcome to Mike's apartment, where we discuss alcohol, cuisine, and a little comedy along the way. With me today is my co-host Thom. How's it going, Thom?
Going good today. So how are you doing, Mike?
Oh, just living the dream.
Oh,
Today, we are going to be reviewing Trulies. And unfortunately, which I'm truly ashamed about, is that Thom went out and got the party pack. While I could not find that, I went with the berry pack. My choices were berry, citrus, and lemonade, and I just went with berry. So
hmm
Thom has a lot more choices than I do, I guess. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think there were three different options when I was there. I think the berry was one, and the lemonade might have been the other. I can't remember what the other one was, but
Yeah, I wish we
yeah,
could review more, but I guess just four for me. Um, what do we know about Truly besides the fact they're super popular? I've heard they're
yeah.
very very popular.
Well, so Truly was launched as a hard seltzer brand in 2016. In 2019, Truly and its competitor White Claw, which I've heard of them.
Oh yeah.
I hadn't heard of Truly before, but I had heard of White Claw. But in let's see, where was I at? In 2019, Truly and their competitor White Claw together controlled 85% of the hard seltzer market. Um, Truly reformulated their flavors in 2019 in order to deal with increased competition. Also in 2019, I never even heard of this. Uh, in 2019, Truly was offered an airline for the first time through a partnership with JetBlue. Did you know that?
I did not. This is not
So
Spirit
that
Airline.
I'm like, I mean, an alcohol company in an airplane, and you don't want the pilots to be drinking while they're flying, do you? I don't know, but
No, but you definitely want the passengers to be drinking. Well, not too much,
yes,
but just enough to keep them, mellow.
yeah, mellow. The Truly brand was one of the largest drivers of the Boston Beer Company's sales growth over this period. But then in 2021, the Boston Beer Company said that the hard seltzer craze was coming to an end sooner than expected, and it was negatively impacting market growth. So then at that time, Truly and their competitor White Claw, they controlled 75% of the market. And then a marketing effort in 2021 saw the brand satirize Dry January as the Try January, inducing millennials to try Truly. And then the Boston Beer Company refreshed the brand in 2023 to adjust to the new post craze market. The brand continued to decline as a percentage of the Boston Beer Company's earnings through 2024. So,
Well,
so I guess these are going out of style. I don't know.
well, what I can say is this, and this is just personal observation alone from someone who goes to you know, buys alcohol, at least weekly or
hmm
twice a week. Let's not lie to ourselves. It's a couple times a week, but um, that's neither here nor there. What I will say is this: that hard seltzer market, it's
hmm
if you look, almost every there's Corona hard seltzer, there's Bud hard seltzer, there's every single company is trying to get into that hard seltzer market because they see how popular, these drinks are. Personally, I'm not a fan of a lot of these hard seltzer brands because I'm not a fan of either. I'm not
hmm
really fruity or berry. I don't know. I'm not usually into that. I just like, I guess, just normal lagers with some ales and some other stuff mixed in. But I'm willing to try
hmm
it. I mean, it's very possible I have had one before and I just don't remember it. But no, I
hmm
I normally don't. I'm not really big on the hard seltzer like fruity type
Yeah,
type drinks.
I have a more of a sweet tooth probably than you do when it comes to alcohol.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to trying these.
All right. Well, without much ado, then we are going to be trying different flavors because we
Mhm.
can't control that. But I'm going to start with the blueberry. Um, if you
I'm gonna start with the one I'm thinking I might like the least, which is watermelon.
watermelon.
hmm
Okay, I'm smelling it. I smell blueberry, I guess.
Oh, it does smell fruity. A little bit of
Uh,
watermelon. I hope there's no seeds in it.
all right, bottoms up.
Cheers.
Cheers. Forgive me.
I think it's a little bit more like mineral water than I was expecting.
I get that too.
So, which I'm not a fan of mineral water, but it is sweet enough that I think I can look past that, the mineral water part.
Yeah, it's
But
this one isn't super sweet, which I like about it. It is more like what you just said, like a mineral water, like one of those bubbly water. I mean, it's certainly carbonated.
yeah,
Which sometimes gives me stomach issues, but whatever. I'm not gonna sit here and complain about it all night. I'm drinking all 4 of these in this episode, and this episode will not end until I've completed these 4, and then.
These are kind of big cans. I don't know if I can drink all of them. I mean, the
Well,
alcohol is only.
Though. Yeah, they're skinny though.
So let's see. It contains 1% juice and 5% per volume alcohol.
Well, the blueberry has 2% juice. You could say the blueberry is twice as fruity as yours, as the watermelon.
Well, you are what you drink.
So
what?
Oh, stop it, Tom. No. Sorry. Let's not go too far down that path.
So
we're here to review the drinks. I don't know. So we can just kind of keep drinking here. We were gonna talk about Star Trek tonight. Believe it or not.
R.I.P. Leonard Nimoy and James Doohan.
Mm-hmm.
And who played? Excuse me. Yeah, who played Chekhov? What was his name?
I don't remember the actor's name.
When to Forrest Kelly. I'm sad that all those guys from the original series have passed on.
Not William Shatner though. He's holding on.
No, yeah, him and Sulu. Why can't I think of his name?
George Takei. Yeah, George Takei. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is that. Did you know that James Doohan, however you pronounce that, Scotty, the Scotty character, he actually was shot into space. That too. As I'm drinking a Truly, I had to say that true, Tom. That's so true, Tom.
Truly, you jest.
No, he was in some war, and literally was shot and had a finger blown off, and then for the show he had a prosthetic. I don't remember which finger it is.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he wore a prosthetic for the show. Oh, you drank a little too strong there. Huh?
Yeah, no, yeah, but no, I remember I watched this review show on YouTube called Red Letter Media.
Oh.
Well, the group is called Red Letter Media. They have a few different shows that they do, and one of them is called Best of the Worst. And they watched 3 bad movies, and they watched one that was called Through Dead Eyes, and it was James Doohan. And the movie was pretty bad. But they were talking. Yeah, right? Go figure. But they were commenting, like, because what they do is they watch the movies and they have a roundtable discussion and they pick out the best of the worst. And if the worst of the worst is offensive enough, they will destroy it. But anyways, they did the Through Dead Eyes with James Doohan. And they're like, what if Tilda Swinton played all of the characters in this movie? And then they're like, yeah, she'd have to have like a green thing on her finger so they could like
that's why
take it off, whatever.
That's why, because you had to wear that prosthetic the whole time.
And then somebody else is like, maybe she should go out into a war and get her finger blown off. Then she could really do it.
Well, and if you remember too, there was that episode of Futurama where all of the original Star Trek cast were on there except for Scotty. No. Remember they had to put Welshie in there because Scotty wouldn't. James Doohan refused to go on Futurama, but they were all alive. This is like 20 years. When Futurama was a big thing.
Futurama's a great show.
They had all the original cast to do the voice acting except for him for some reason. So they decided to make fun of him.
Were they heads in a jar?
No, they were actually. I think they were all. I know Nixon is the president. I don't remember it exactly, but I don't think their heads were in jars. They actually were somehow there. So again, I haven't seen the episode in probably 20 years, so I don't remember that much about it. But so for you and me, actually, the original series was not our prime thing of Star Trek.
No.
When we were kids, it was Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space
Mm,
Nine, and then Enterprise. And then we had like
I
the 20 years off or 15 years off
yeah.
of Star Trek, and then it came back with Discovery and some of the other ones.
Well, they had the next gen movies in there that
Yeah.
some people love them or hate them. But I do remember watching the original series growing up. I remember like the Salt Vampire episode and some of the others. I remember the Gorn fighting. Was it the
Oh,
Gorn where they
yeah.
were in
I am sorry,
Mustafar getting
Captain, but we must do battle. Oh, no, the Gorn was the lizard guy in the suit, yeah.
yeah, where
They,
they were fighting in the desert.
what
But
was I remember there's this meme, and they're like, oh, they're showing this picture of like the computer with the circuit. There's like, Captain, I don't understand how the computer chips have changed. They all look like a pile of yarn with whatever, and they actually
oh,
were a pile of yarn that they had just,
oh really?
yeah. Original
What
series.
episode was that? Oh,
I
that was
don't, well,
original series.
yeah,
Okay,
original
yeah,
series. Yeah, I'd have to look at it, but yeah, they like looked in the computer thing, and it's just a bunch of
yeah.
yarn. And he's like,
I
Captain, I don't know
remember.
what happened.
I remember the Tribbles, which I remember. So they were having issues with the Tribbles because they're little fur balls that just kept on, you know,
Multiplying, yeah.
multiplying like bunnies. And but they,
I've moved to number
I,
two.
I remember thinking after season 3 of Next Gen, I was like, a good way to take out the Borg might be to send a shuttle into Borg space with 2 Tribbles and see what happens when they assimilate the
So
Tribbles.
I know you're not familiar with Deep Space Nine
Hmm.
because they had a triple. They took that same episode and they went back in time to that episode, and like Dax and all the other. I mean, you're not familiar with the Deep Space Nine characters, but they
I am a
all
little bit.
they went back in time though, and
Hmm.
like that was basically just a come. They just went over that episode, and they just took the scenes and re-edited them. That
Hmm.
was when Paramount still owned all of them,
Yeah.
or whoever it
Well,
was
and
at the
then
time. But
fast
excuse me,
forward,
oh
was it
my,
2010, 12, what, 11? I don't know, the second Star Trek movie. So you had Star Trek, and then I think Star Trek Beyond, they brought Khan back, and then they were trying to use his blood to like reanimate a dead Tribble, which then they used to save Captain Kirk after he died. But
that actually was a genuinely funny episode, both the original series and the Deep Space Nine one about the
yeah.
Tribbles. But let's see here.
Mhm.
So let's go to Next Generation is generally Picard, Riker, all of them.
Mhm.
That series is generally considered more introspective and more philosophical than all the other ones. It was a lot of, especially like Inner Light was a great episode.
Which one was that
The
one? That
uh,
was
The Measure of a Man. The Inner Light
oh
was the
yeah,
one
Measure of
where
a Man. Yeah,
that
that
Measure of
was
a Man, where
Data, right?
yeah, Data was put on trial to see if he was
Yeah,
a citizen and or a person even.
yeah.
Um, and then, oh, good. Yeah, Inner Light was about Picard. He encounters this artifact and he lives like a whole life, and he watches how this
Oh, I
planet
love that
dies. Yeah,
episode.
yeah, and the sun
Yeah,
kept getting
the
bigger, and yeah,
solar flare. I mean, the sun was dying. Yeah.
yeah, and all that was
And,
left of their civilization was just that artifact, and then the memories that
mm,
Picard had. That was a good one. That was the one with the flute too, right? He's playing the little flute. That's where he comes back and can suddenly he had no previous way to play the flute.
which
Then he could.
the Red Letter Media guys are big Trekkie fans, like Next Gen, DS9, Voyager, whatever. But they commented on that episode how when he's playing it, it's like you can when you look at the video, you can see it's like somebody sitting in front of Picard doing the fingering, and they're like talking about how awkward that must have been for him to how he had to like sit there. Hey, I
Hey,
got a visitor. Say
hey,
hi, Susie.
hey, Susie, what's going on? Yeah, give him kisses. Yeah. Oh,
You
she's
guys saw
sweet.
Skeeter a little earlier too. He's a fun little dog. But
Um,
no, anyways, one of my favorite earlier episodes, I think it might have been season 1, was Symbiosis. Do you remember that episode?
that's the
Okay,
one. Remind me again of the
so,
plot.
okay, so they the Enterprise shows up in this solar system, whatever. I don't know, remember where it was, there's a ship in distress, like a small cargo ship, and they're like, we need this part, this part like died or whatever, and we
Oh
need it, but they all
yeah.
sounded like they were stoned or whatever. And so then when they were gonna try to rescue the people from the ship, they put the go on first to be transported, and they're like, "What? Get that off of there! Get the people over here!" And then it turned out you had two planets. One was making a drug and then giving it to the others as medicine for this sickness that they had, which was
Addiction.
and
Yeah.
yeah, an addiction. They and so they I remember what was it? I was gonna say I don't know. That was a pretty good episode. I also liked the what was the episode called? It was Booby Trap, I think.
Oh yeah, where him and the
Where
Ferengi were stuck in the. Yeah.
no, this
Is
was
this a
the
different
one where
one?
they found
Oh,
like
the
a thousand
planet! Oh, they
year
were trying to
old.
sell them. They're trying to sell them the merchandise, right? The weapons.
No, that was in episode one. This was a
Oh.
later season
Huh.
where so they find this old 1,000-year-old battleship that's like mint condition. It's been untouched for thousands of years. And they fly into this debris field, which they think was probably a planet. They don't really come out and say it, but they think that a planet might have been blown up or something. And it turns out they go over to the ship, explore it, whatever, and then when they come back and try to leave, they're stuck, and they were in like those Chinese finger traps. So the more energy they exerted to get out of there, the more their power was getting drained. So then at the end of the episode, oh, and that was the episode where Jordy went into the uh, 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 what was the my I hate myself right now. My brain isn't
It's
working. The
okay.
chamber where they had the holograms, the hollow, uh,
The holodeck.
yeah, the holodeck. God dang it, so
Dang
dumb.
it, Tom! That
And
was.
I've only had half of this 5% drink.
Well, I'm on my
But
second one, but
anyways,
keep
so
going.
Jordy, to better be able to troubleshoot the issue, he went into the holodeck and wrote up a program where he was talking to
Oh, that woman.
what's
Yeah.
her name, the woman who like designed the Enterprise's engines, and then they figured out by the end of the episode the best way to get out of there is just to turn everything off except for a couple of thrusters and some navigational control, and then they just basically used inertia to get out of
Right.
the trap, and then at the end of the episode they blew up the ship.
Now, remember, there was a later episode where he met the woman, and it was weird because she was married, and then she walked into Geordie's fantasy world where they're sort of. I also reminisce.
Yeah.
Remember Barkley, the Barkley episode where
Oh
Riker
yeah.
was like the little tiny short guy, and he had his whole fantasy world or whatever.
Oh yeah. When
Barkley.
he had the holodeck addiction.
Yep.
He was in another of my favorite episodes where they there was like some kind of uh, device or satellite thing out by this uh, communications relay that they had to fix, and then it's like started following them, and it flashed. It was like Geordi and Barkley went out on a shuttle to fix the thing, and then they got that fixed, and then on the way back they got flashed with this light from the satellite thing, and it didn't affect Geordi because he's blind, but Barkley when he woke up, he was a lot more creative, assertive,
Intelligent.
intelligent.
Like they said, he
They
was
said he
off the
might have
scale.
been.
Yeah.
He was like had like a 700 IQ or something, and they're like, "You may be the most advanced." Crusher's like, "You may be the most advanced human."
And
And
then he took them in space, right? And they went through these
yeah,
weird worlds or some weird part of the
yeah,
galaxy, and they met this new
well,
person, and they're like, "We're explorers
yeah,
too, but we just summon everyone to us." Yeah, because he
yeah,
summoned them back
yeah,
to. He's like, "Hello," and when he said something like, he was like, "What did he say?" God, he said something like upright skeleton, something something brain. I don't remember the
mhm.
whole. Honestly, it's been too many years, but I know the episode. Yeah, but
Yeah. They were concerned because he took over the ship and built himself like this computer thrown in the holodeck. Again, the holodeck. They used that a lot.
And they couldn't take him out. Like, by the time, though, they figured out he was so ingrained in the computer that he couldn't be removed without killing him. Yeah. And like, yeah, that's right. Picard said in that scene, he's like, computer. And then he says, yes, Captain. And he's like, we're trying to get the computer. He's like, I am the computer now. What can I help you with? It was so stupid.
Oh, you know that famous Picard meme when he goes like this, whatever, a face palm. Do you know what episode that was from?
I don't remember exactly, no.
That was from, what was it called? Was it Q Who? I can't remember. It was the episode where Q was stripped of his powers and appeared on the deck of the Enterprise. I think he was naked or something, but he had like no powers. And they were trying to save this planet when he showed up from its moon falling out of orbit. And so then the rest of the episode, Q is like on the bridge. He's trying to convince him that, hey, I'm mortal. And finally he's like, well, what do I got to do to prove to you guys I'm mortal like you? And Worf is like, die. It's like,
Worf had the best lines out of every single character on there. Not only that, what's his name? Michael
Dorn?
Yeah, Michael Dorn.
Is it Dorn or Dorn?
I think it's Dorn. Remember. I think it's Dorn. Yeah, Michael Dorn. I think he was the actor who has been on more Star Trek episodes than any other talent because he was a main character on all of Next Generation and then seasons 4 through 7 on DS9 because he was the strategic operations officer or whatever. But
he also had a cameo on Star Trek 6 Undiscovered Country where he was the lawyer defending McCoy and Kirk.
I vaguely remember. I haven't seen them. I remember. This is how old it was. Remember when Netflix would mail you the DVDs?
Oh, yeah.
That's how long it's been since I rented all of the Star Trek movies, like from the original series. And I'd seen is it 2 or 3 Next Generation movies? I had seen those already. But like at the time,
5, I thought, for Next Gen, but
they had, Next Generation. What did they have for movies? I know the Romulan one at the end where you find out that Romulan guy is Picard's son. That one, like, tanked, I guess. And
they just weren't making any money at that point.
Well, and who directed it? It was
Was that Riker?
Yeah, Riker's
Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah, Jonathan Frakes. Frakes, yeah. Jonathan Frakes directed. I'm not gonna blame him so much. I just think especially like when they hit Enterprise and they only made 3 seasons and then canceled it, even though it was really Enterprise. I don't know how much Enterprise you watched. The first season,
a little bit of the first season.
It got better though. It got really, really good, and then they canceled it. And I think it's because like there was the inertia, you just say the inertia. They were just flowing on inertia to get through, as much as they could. But it just kind of at that time they stopped, and then until Discovery came on, I mean, there just was it was just all reruns. And I remember too, I had my, I was 27, 28. I was old for getting my, my wisdom teeth removed, but all I did was and that was back when they give you painkillers. I just remember being like high on Vicodin and watching all these Star Trek shows.
That must have been a trip.
It was a trek. No, it was quite the trek. It was quite the trek for me, Tom. No, I mean,
Truly it was.
Yeah, and I'm almost done with my second one. I'm ready to start number 3.
Oh, really? I'm still on my first one. I'm almost done with it.
You gotta be truly committed to truly enjoy. Okay, I may be feeling a little bit right now, but in a good way. And I hope I'm just bubbly and whatever right now.
This is still bubbly, at least. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's move on to Voyager really quick. So Voyager was more of its isolation. It was darker. It was, I mean, and then like the characters were also so good. I mean, people could say whatever they want about Jerry Ryan. I agree. Well, so what we've heard. Okay, so let's go to the Kess / 7 of 9 kind of controversy.
Yeah.
Like, why did they get rid of Jennifer Lien? I think was the actress's name.
I'm trying to remember what the deal was.
This was the thing. So this is what I was told. I could be wrong. And I think we actually discussed this when we were playing this other game, before as people don't know, Thom and I also game on over Discord. But long story short, what happened was this. They were originally going to get rid of Garrett. It says Wang. I think it's pronounced Wong. It's Garrett Wong.
Asian guy?
Yep,
Okay, yeah.
yep. Ensign Harry Kim is the character.
But then didn't they have like some fan backlash or something?
Well, no. This was the thing. In 1997, he was voted People Magazine's sexiest man of the year. So all of a sudden, all the producers and everyone over at Paramount are like, "Hey, we can't get rid of the sexiest man of the year for 1997. Who else can we cut?" And they're like, "Well, Cass, I guess." Now, I don't know and you know what? I don't want to smear Jennifer Leanne around. I think it's already happened enough. And I don't know if this was happening while she was still playing Cass or not, but she had a real addiction, drug addiction problem. And she also she went to jail a couple times. I think one of them was domestic assault or something. And I'm not trying to, if I have it wrong, I have it wrong. And I am perfect. I don't like to smear people like that, especially someone. I thought Cass. Here is the problem with the Kes character. Nothing to do with Jennifer Leanne. Kes was an Akampa as her species, and they were just such a powerful... if you remember at the end, she could
She evolved.
Yeah, she could do all this crazy stuff, and it's where do you go from there? She's she's telepathic on this crazy degree. She's telekinetic. She can bend every space and time and everything else. And if you remember her gift, I think the episode was actually called The Gift. That's where she shot them I don't know. She shaved 10 or 20 years off their trip because she was able to move the whole ship like that. I think it was called The Gift. But the thing was, that was the thing. I don't know much about how Jennifer Leanne was on the show. I guess they felt she was after, Harry Kim. They felt that the Kes character was the weakest. But again, I don't know that was her fault. They just kept giving her abilities and I think they just came up to a point where they're like, well, she's so powerful she could just take them home. Why are we even bothering with this character? So they had to they had to cut her. I mean,
close to Q-like power or whatever.
Yeah, I mean she was.
So she eventually evolved to energy, didn't she?
I know she came back and she was very. I don't remember how exactly she came back, just for a episode or something, and she was very angry and evil, maybe. I don't, I would have to. I can't remember.
It's been so long since I've seen it, but I remember that. But I know some people were upset about the whole swapping her out with
Jerry Ryan. Yeah,
Jerry Ryan. 7 and 9. I like 7. I thought she had some decent kind of growth. There's some comments
at least two growths.
Yeah.
Okay, I shouldn't have went there. I
shouldn't have went there. Not too much.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, I think she wasn't just a pretty face. Jerry Ryan could legitimately act.
Anyways, another I think nitpick complaint I heard about the show, but this was more of a budget thing. I think was how far away from home, right? I mean, it's going to take them how many years? I don't remember how many years it was to get home.
It was 70 years originally. I think it was 70 or 80.
They had all these conflicts, but every time you saw the exterior of the ship, it looked perfect. It looked mint, with maybe a couple of exceptions that they did for a specific episode. But the beauty passes of the ship it was all perfect, except for there was an episode where they found, and I vaguely remember this, but I heard somebody talking about it. Where they found another Starfleet ship stranded.
Oh,
that was really messed up, and they were you could see that they were scavenging parts from other ships and they were just hobbling along and just attacking everybody so that they could survive.
I think you don't. So there was a main point to that. It was a 2-part series. God, what was it called? Something. So what they were so if you remember, what they were doing in that show was they had found this species of alien, and they were killing these aliens to get whatever life juice. It wasn't that they were just randomly attacking. They had their shields up because the species was able to move around and teleport around and stuff like that. God, what was it called? Like something. It's not like the seasonal. So we're not allowed to use. Well, maybe it's not really like a hard rule. We're not really allowed to like look. I would prefer not to look stuff up, just so we could just make it more natural and organic on the show. I forget the name of the ship. I think it was the name of the episode. There's a 2-part series, but yeah, that was the one where they were actually killing this species of alien because it could give them some kind of juice to go further. And they were only like, God, they said like, oh, we only have to kill like 10 more to get home or 20 more or something. I don't remember. But that was a good series. And again, it goes back to the, Voyager definitely had the themes of like isolation. It was supposed to be darker than the Next Generation. Well, both Deep Space Nine and Voyager in different ways were meant to be darker. But Jerry, let's go back to 7 of 9 really quick here. I think it's too easy of a sellout to say that just because she was an attractive lady that she somehow got the job. It's not really true. There were so many. Especially the episodes with her and the Doctor, those two could play off of each other so well. I mean,
Robert Picardo.
Yeah, Robert Picardo. It was amazing what actually. And God, what was the one like Tinker something, where they switched bodies somehow. And she's like, "What have you done?" And he was sitting there eating all this cheesecake, drinking bottles of champagne, and she's like, "You defiled me."
I don't remember that episode.
You'll have to watch it.
I do remember Tuvix.
Oh, Tuvix was well. Okay, so there's. Okay, why don't you talk about it first, and then I'll fill you in on what the ending. I think my hypothesis, but you go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and tell us about Tuvix a little bit.
I don't remember the exact ending, but so Tuvok and Neelix had a transporter accident where when they transported from here to the ship, when they were materialized on the ship, they had been merged into one being that they named Tuvix, and they figured out how to separate them, but then it kind of came down. It was like the measure of a man. They had to decide. Tuvix is now his own or their own being. I don't know what the gender was. I don't know.
I think it was still male. Both Tuvok and male. Yeah, and I believe Tuvix was male. I mean,
but anyway, so they had that kind of debate on whether or not they were killing someone by separating them back into their original parts.
And Tuvix himself argued that he
wanted to live.
I want to live. And then they'd march him off the bridge. So this is what I think happened with that whole thing. So here's the weird part. If you probably don't remember, because I've had to watch the episode several times to get it. The last number two. Well, this is number 3 for me, man. You're behind. Anyways, for Tuvix, the end scene, if you remember, is just Janeway just saying she ordered the separation of Tuvix back into Tuvok and Neelix. But then she looks out, she just gazes out into space. She's sitting in her room or something, and she just looks out into space, and you just get this weird thing. This is what I think happened. I think it was supposed to be a 2-part. I think it was supposed to be 2 episodes, but for whatever reason, they had to cram it into 1 episode. And that's why. So Janeway seems unusually callous and cruel. She's just malicious. I mean, it's she doesn't even give Tuvix a chance to say anything or do anything. So basically, I mean, she's made out to be this huge, killer bitch. I mean, I hate to say it. She was made out. I mean, they were painting her, just as dark as they could, as if Janeway suddenly, is just this evil. When in no other episode was she ever like that to anyone else. But this is what I think. I think they were going to have a 2-part episode, and they had to cram it into 1, and that's why you just get that first part, and then they end it with just. If you watch the episode, she just gazes out into space, and it's that doesn't really explain anything that just happened or why, nothing in this, and it's just, and I think too the actor that played Tuvix did an unusually good job and that's why he was able to, but they
Well,
just they
I
just didn't
remember.
capitalize that.
I seem to kind of remember like by I mean, at the beginning of the episode, you're like, "What the heck? Fix that!" But then, kind of as the episode goes on, you kind of, start to feel a connection or sympathy for Tuvix.
Yeah.
So I think, as I recall, they did a pretty good job with that episode.
Well,
Um,
it's like he was able to balance both aspects. He could be the chef and the artistic, the perceptive, the wise kind of the wisdom that like Tuvok or not Tuvok that Neelix had
Felix?
with yeah Neelix had, and then the logic and intellect that Tuvok had, but he was somehow able to balance both. And that actor pulled off, I don't know what his name is, but he pulled off a hell of a job to show both. Like
Mhm.
he was able to really portray it. So I'm actually kind of sad that they, and again, this is my guess. I don't know that it's not like Brandon, whatever the hell his name was talking to me about it, but who actually ended
Yeah.
up marrying Jerry Ryan, by the way. What was his name? Brandon, God, he was one of the executive producers. So a lot of people felt that, again, I think that relationship was natural. So believe it or not, Jerry Ryan had been married to a politician, and I think she had a couple kids with him. She was married to this politician, but I guess he like cheated on her a
Mhm.
bunch or whatever, and then so she went into into acting, after the divorce or whatever. And I think that's when
Mhm.
she met executive. Again, God, it's been so long. Executive producer guy. I know his first name's like Brandon or something. I don't know, but so
Mhm.
but she wasn't. I don't. I think they didn't meet each other until on the show. So it's not like she got some special favors or something
Mhm.
because of that
Yeah.
relationship. But I don't know. Um, but yeah, no, I loved. Please don't take anything I'm saying out of context. I think Jerry Ryan is an amazing actress. I think the Seven of Nine
Mhm.
character really, it was, I think it was the right move. And I felt like the conflicted Borg becoming human
Mhm.
it was a great, it was a great plot, great themes, and they
Mhm.
played on that a lot, as she became more and more human and her,
Mhm.
the Borg
Yeah, when they
technology
found
kept.
those bored kids,
Oh
and
yeah,
all
that's
that
right.
stuff. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, what's his
yeah.
name? Echub or Echub?
Yeah.
Echub?
Oh, they.
Echub? Was it Echub?
Yeah, they brutally murdered his character in
Like
Picard,
stabbed him in the
and
eye or something or
I
whatever it
remember.
was.
I guess there was a controversy about him on Twitter. I don't. I think he. I don't remember what he said, but he said some stuff on Twitter, got some heat for it, and then when they did Picard, they just brutally murdered his character, and
Yep.
people were like,
I
"Was
saw
that a
that.
big fu to that guy, that
I
character,
I
that
don't
actor?"
I don't know about that. I mean, maybe they just didn't have enough money for. I mean, I'm sorry to say, every character can't be a regular cast member. I mean, they only got
Yeah.
so much of a.
No.
They got to fit in the characters that they can. And Ichib, uh, I mean, he is a good character. And I remember, yeah, they went back to that planet where his parents were supposedly from. They were farmers or something, and he was so intelligent, he was meant to be a scientist or something like that, and he wanted to stay on the ship, but they made him go anyways. And then Seven of Nine had mixed feelings about it, so they went back to get him. And so they found out
Mm.
that they were giving Ichab to the Borg to kind of save their planet,
Oh
but it wasn't going
yeah,
to work out.
yeah.
But it wasn't going to work anyways. So it was something like that. But then, yeah, Seven of Nine kept having, she had mixed feelings, so they got the ship back and saved him. But and then there was the young girl, and then I think there was a younger boy too. But I don't remember their
Yeah.
names, and I don't remember what they did even. Who was the other? Who was the captain's assistant? Naomi Watts,
Oh,
captain's
was it
assistant.
Naomi Watts?
Was
Yeah,
that the name? Something like. And she's like, I am the special assistant to the or I am the assistant captain, whatever she made up her own.
first office. She made up her own. I don't
She
remember
was a
that.
child. Remember? No. I'm sorry.
Oh, the kid.
Naomi was the mother. You're right. You're right. Right. It was God. What was her name? Shit. So the mother was like the nurse, right? God, we're gonna get torn apart when we post this because like, who are these
Well,
two jackasses talking about
we're
Star
getting
Trek?
half our stuff right at least. But real quick,
If we're lucky.
I liked the watermelon. I tried the pineapple a couple times here. I'm not having the pineapple. It's like
I
it,
don't blame you. Now, I'm one of those people who really, I'm actually okay with most pineapple. I hate, I hate pineapple on pizza though. Do
oh
not put
yeah,
a
me too.
pineapple on my pizza. They were not meant. It was not
Trying the
meant to be.
raspberry. Gonna
I'm
try the raspberry here.
the raspberry. I didn't. Despite getting the
Better.
berries, I didn't get a raspberry. This strawberry lime is pretty good though. It has a nice little bit of
Yeah.
sour from the lime, little bit of sweet from the strawberry. It's not bad.
Probably not gonna get to it before we quit, but I've got the citrus squeeze is the last one that I
Ooh,
have.
do you feel
So,
squeezed?
but
No.
yeah,
Have you been
I
squeezed,
kind of
Tom?
do. I like this. I'm always under pressure. It's just you're always squeezing.
Speaking about under pressure, that was the
Da, da, da,
Voyager
da, da, da,
episode.
da, da.
No, not that one. The Voyager episode, Scientific Method, where this advanced species was making unethical medical experiments. They were like in like a different phase of space. They were kind of like invisible.
Well,
But
I vaguely remember that.
they had all the. It's called Scientific Method. I don't remember what season it was. But speaking of that, I can totally relate to Janeway because she's like she was like, you've been pumping me full of dopamine for the last 4 days. I haven't slept and I've had a migraine like a stab through my brain because
Yeah.
she flew the ship because they found out that their invisible ship or whatever it was actually attached to Voyager, and they were doing all these, like, they killed someone on the ship and they were doing all these weird medical things. And they're like, well, don't worry, your sacrifice will be whatever. So then Janeway decides to go too close. No, she went between two pulsars. Was it? She went between like two pulsars, and they're like, and she's like, well, there's only a 10% chance of us getting out of here. She's like, Tuvok, what do you think? And he's like, at best, I calculate a 5% chance of being able to get out of here. So they kept going through the pulsars. So their ship broke away because they thought it was too dangerous. But then they just pulled through, obviously, with the Janeway maneuver. No, I don't know. But sometimes, I can really understand. I can empathize with Janeway. Sometimes I feel like I've been awake for 4 days and I have a stabbing pain in my brain. But that was that ending, like the whole episode itself, the concept of it, kind of, it was cool.
Kind of silly.
Kind of
Yeah.
silly, kind of cool. But like that last scene, it was just like, yep, we've all been there. And of course, the whole Janeway thing
Yeah.
about not getting coffee, like, she needs her coffee.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention earlier too, I was thinking about. We were talking about the doctor, and he was an emergency hologram doctor. What was it? What was the acronym?
EMH.
EMH.
Yeah, EMH. Yep.
Anyways, uh, later on in the show, they got a hollow emitter from like 2 or 3 centuries in the future that he could put on his arm, so then he could go walk around the ship or anywhere where there weren't hollow emitters. He could transport down to a planet, all that kind of stuff. And well, I guess in Picard season 2, uh, the guy with the sword that in the first scene is
Yep.
like, "Choose from,
Romulan
choose to
dude.
live." Yeah, the Romulan guy. I'm not very familiar with their names,
I'm
but
not either.
in the show. But anyways, I guess on the ship he installed. Uh, he had I guess the previous captain had a hollow emitters of himself, whatever, on the ship. But they had for those hologram versions. They in this season 2, I guess they were all the guy with the sword, the Romulan guy, and they were, I guess, were they fighting the Borg or something? I don't know. I haven't seen season 2 yet.
Probably.
I've just
Yeah.
seen. I saw a review of it, but they showed him running around with hollow emitters, and it's like this. How did they have hollow emitters on this ship? when those things are from centuries in the future, and they only had one that they got, unless if they backwards engineered it. I
Yeah,
don't know.
they reversed engineered the Doctor's technology. But they had several episodes. God, what was the one that I'm thinking of? Is remember the EMH made a writing deal back on Earth, and he was publishing the struggles of the hologram against whatever.
Oh
So
yeah,
they're like, put on your
I vaguely
portable
remember that.
emitter, and he like had like this huge backpack that was like 100 pounds. It's like that is nothing like your portable emitter, and he's like, that's how it feels sometimes, like 100 pounds, and like everyone's just like dismissive of him, like just go down, you dirty hologram. I just remember, and they had Paris was like this lecherous, like he's like trying to, even though he's married to Torres, he's like trying to make out with all the nurses, and then like Paris is like, is that really how you see us? And then Paris went in and like made his own. I forgot what that episode was actually pretty good, I thought. And then like the firm back on Earth, the author, the ones that are the publishing house for his work,
Yeah.
refused to go because he's like, I don't want to go through because this kind of makes everyone look bad back on Voyager. And they're like, we don't care. You're not a person. We can just publish this anyways. And they had this court case that apparently he won.
Oh yeah, I
don't know
do
if you-
vaguely remember that.
That's
Yeah.
a good one. That's if you want to see a Robert Picardo episode, that is a really good one. There's other ones too, like the one where him and Seven of Nine. We talked about Tinker something, where him and Seven of Nine switch bodies, and then the one where he got rid of he found this planet that he thought he could be like this opera singer, and I think in real life
I was just thinking of that. Yeah.
he can. I think Robert Picardo really can sing opera. I think in real life he could. If you remember too, he was also the coach in Wonder Years. If you remember that, remember Wonder Years?
I know he was. I know he was the voice of the self-driving car in Total Recall.
Yep.
He was also in Gremlins. Gremlins 2, I think it was.
Okay.
But by the way, I guess there was an episode of Voyager where. What was the main actor's name? Peltzer, Billy, was it Billy Peltzer or? But I can't remember the actor's name. But the actor was in an episode of Voyager. He was a patient in the whatever they call the emergency not holodeck, but whatever.
Andy Dick. The
Not
episode
Andy Dick.
when he was also an EMH, and he gets transferred to that Romulan ship that's been killed.
That's
that was
a
Andy
different
Dick.
episode.
Yeah.
But I really did like that episode.
Yeah, that one's a good one.
Or the episode where they found a planet where they were using holograms as slave labor or something.
Which again doesn't make sense unless you have portable emitters everywhere or those
They had some kind of.
Why would that make
had,
sense? Why would you you would pay all that? You'd put up all these holographic emitters, but you couldn't for slave labor. That doesn't make any sense. But
Yeah.
that was kind of stupid. It's like, why would you do that?
Another good hologram episode was TNG. Don't remember the name of the episode, but Riker wakes up in the future, and they're telling him he had an accident or something, and he was in stasis for like 100 years or something. I don't know. Anyways,
it wasn't 100 years. It was like 7 or 5. And he was the captain, right? He was the captain.
Yeah,
his son was there, and
yeah, and there was a scene where he had figured out that this was all fake. Whatever was going on, it was fake, and
it was the wife, right?
Right up in because the wife
was from that French
was from her, yeah.
She wasn't
Yeah,
real.
She was never real. So that was another good episode. That was in the 1100111010 whatever episode. That was what they called it. But anyways, he gets like right up in Picard's face and is like, "Shut up." Or something like that. I don't know. But then
and he's like Data, calculate blah 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 blah, and like Data couldn't do it. They're like, Data, this makes no sense. You could always calculate this, and that's how he was proving that this whole thing was.
Yeah, that and Data used a contraction, which he never did.
I can't do it. He's like, can't or cannot, because the real Data I know could never fucking say that.
Yeah, no, so We could go on probably a couple more hours
Oh, God.
of like this.
All right, let's switch over. So you said you've never seen Deep Space Nine, really, except for a few
No,
episodes.
no. Oh yeah, no, yeah. Deep Space Nine. I've seen bits and pieces of that and Enterprise.
So
Um,
Deep Space Nine. Oh, God. So here's the thing. So here's the other controversy. Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine. Now there's this.
they came out the same year, didn't they?
It's worse than that. What was his name? Mike something Michael Stratowski. Oh God, what was the name of the creator? So apparently he put his Babylon 5 Bible with all the characters or whatever, and apparently Paramount executives had seen it, but they chose to pass on it. Now, the premise of
Yes.
their both being on a spaceship and war being a major part, some people said that that was more than a coincidence, though other people did not. However, both came out, and I will say I love Babylon 5. Babylon 5 is worth watching, and outside of maybe that initial viewing, it's completely different. Deep Space Nine is about it's war. It is darker. The best the no Tom, if you have any time tonight, and you can get on there, God, what is it called? Dancing in the what is that? Dancing in the devil's what's that phrase from Batman? Or
Oh, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Pale. That's it. Just look for Pale Moonlight. I think it's season 5. You don't have to know anything. You don't have to know anything about Deep Space Nine. Watch in the Pale Moonlight. It's season 5 or 6. I don't remember exactly. It is literally it's life changing. That episode. I'm not gonna. I honestly at this, though we've gone more than 20 years here, I'm sure spoilers are not a problem. I will just say it is my absolute favorite favorite episode of any Star Trek is in the Pale Moonlight on Deep Space Nine. It's pretty freaking amazing. And Avery Brooks, the guy who plays Captain Sisko,
Mhm.
amazing. It's Tom. It's next level. Watch it tonight. Promise me you'll watch it tonight. You don't got to work tomorrow, right?
I do. I work. Tomorrow's my early day. I start at 9:30,
You got
and
plenty of
then
time.
work a half day. But anyways, would you say because you mentioned that Babylon 5 had a little bit of a rough start? Would you say
Definitely.
that would be comparable to like the first two seasons of TNG, where they were just a lot of the episodes were just cringe?
Well, so
They had good
TNG.
episodes, but third season is when it really got good.
Here's the thing. So the first season, there were what do they call it? Uh, Chaos on the bridge or whatever it was,
Yeah, well,
because
Gene
all
Roddenberry was still involved, and
and
he
really,
didn't want any interpersonal conflict with the crew, and they were still having potted plants on the set for when they were outside or something. It's like
it
with
was
a blue curtain in the
I
background.
mean,
It
you have
was
to imagine though
terrible.
that was 1987 though, so it wasn't. I mean, for
Yeah,
that time,
but
it wasn't.
and the stories were actually written, I think, for the original series,
He just
the
couldn't fill
scripts.
them all out. Well, that's why you have
Yeah,
like they go to the one planet, it's all controlled by women. They go to the next planet, it's like Africa. It's
it
yeah,
was very racist
it was
episode.
that was a
It
very
was
yeah that
terrible.
was yeah well yeah it was bad. Let's just say this though. First season was kind of wonky. The second
They had some good
season,
episodes.
yeah, there were a few good episodes. Season 2 though suffered from a writer's strike, which is why you had that gray the one with
Mm.
they kept showing all the other gray something was like the ending. So they actually had that writer's strike, which was a big deal. But then also, if you remember, Doctor the Crusher Beverly Crusher,
Had left,
yeah,
and
she
they
had
had
left. They put Pulaski on such a okay.
nobody liked her.
She well
I think
she
it's just fine, on a
no,
rewatch.
she called Data just to
Oh,
because
that's right. That's
and he was
right.
like,
I
"That's
forgot
not
about
how my
that.
name is pronounced. It's Data." And she's like, "You're just a stupid machine. I'm gonna call you Data." And he's like, "Ugh." And then God, well, this is the thing too. They tried to pull off like a romance kind of thing, and I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I don't know if it's '90s cringe or what it was. I I found I found, God, I'm so shallow. I found the actress very not attractive. I thought Beverly Crusher's, I found, she was at least, Wesley Crusher's mother. She was at least like, mildly attractive, but like it was like they were trying to, and here was the worst part. It's not that actress is necessarily not attractive. I just think like for even like I guess it was still the 80s. I mean, I'm sorry, it was 1988 when that second season aired. So it was the late 80s. Like just like that I don't know what her hair deal was and she kind of just looked kind of worn out. I don't know.
He had a kind of, as I recall, she had kind of a terse, is that the right word? Terse attitude towards people,
She
whatever.
was always just kind of, we'll just say bitchy. I mean, she was
But
just like a
but
bitch
she did stand up for Data. Was it
in
in
the
Pen
end.
Pals?
Yeah, I think so.
When
Yeah,
he
he
wanted
found
to
that
save that
voice. Yeah,
plant with
that
the volcano, and they're like, "But that's the prime directive we'd be violating."
then she kind of stood up for him a
And,
little bit. Yeah.
and she's like, "Yeah, but that's Data's friend."
I just don't see though how all of that erased all of the other things. It was like they were kind of setting something up between her and Picard, but it was obvious that that was not working. And then, oh wait, didn't she have a relationship with Riker's father? Like that episode where he comes down and they're like fighting or whatever, and she's like, "I." Did she say she was married? I don't know if she said she was married to him or if she just like knew him, but she had some kind of romantic relationship with Riker's father, and it was also very weird. They either were married or something. I don't remember. Honestly, I remember that episode though, where like he had to come down and show Riker up, but then he found out that his dad had been cheating this whole time. Like they're doing that fighting thing with the sticks. I don't know, but then he was always cheating because
Oh,
he didn't. You remember that episode? I don't know.
I
Kind of.
vaguely remember them going back and forth in what
Yeah.
looked like it was eventually going to be a shuttle bay or something, but because they were still kind of building sets in season two.
Yeah, you'd think the
But
holodeck would have solved that problem, but apparently they still use some kind of gym. I don't know.
whoops,
What?
hang on, just a minute, let me get back into my computer here.
Uh-oh, we've been talking too long. No. All right, Tom, let's, we could honestly do another season, or not another season, another episode, and talk more about Star Trek, because I don't think that we're finished here, but I also feel like we're approaching an hour here. So
Oh, are we? Okay. Maybe I'll
let's
just leave this off.
yeah, let's just talk about Truly for yeah, let's talk about Truly for a second. Scale. Mike's apartment is 5. 5 is ambrosia, food of the gods. It's the best of the best. 0. 0 is shit. Shit of the gods, whatever you want to call it. Where is Truly, Tom? If you had to be
Well,
truly true.
so I've tasted 3 out of the 4. I thought the pineapple tasted like shit.
Ooh,
I'd
yeah.
say like a 1 for the pineapple. Watermelon probably 3.5, 3.6.
Oh,
I
really?
think the raspberry is a little bit better, maybe a 3.8. I could see maybe having these, having grilling up some food outside and having a fire and sitting around drinking a cold truly. Truly, I can see that happening. But
I would,
so I don't know
yeah.
about the other one.
I would say the strawberry lime was really good. This cherry kind of tastes like shit. I mean, yeah, cherry's probably a 1. I don't know that I would go
What was
above
the
a
first
3.
one?
The first one I had was the blueberry.
And what was the
Uh,
rating?
I would say 2.5, 2.6, average to middling. Yeah, wild berry about the same. Strawberry lime closer to a 3. Cherry is closer to a 1. It's kind of nasty to be honest with you. And
Mm.
maybe that's just because I've had so many. But yeah, no,
So
I
you
mean,
like 2 out of the 4.
so if I had to average it, yeah, I would say, God, 2.5, 2.6. I mean, okay. Again, I'm not a big fruity hard seltzer drinker. These are okay. Like, I mean, and we can kind of tell. I mean, I think at this point we're buzzed. I mean, I wouldn't say either of us is drunk, but we're definitely both kind of
No,
intoxicated off of these. And it's a
a little
good
bit,
feeling.
yeah.
It's a good feeling. Like, I feel good about it. But how I had to get here, I mean, I don't know that I would. I personally, I don't know. This is how you truly know that Truly is not a sponsor. I'm not. They're okay. I mean, they're all right. 2.65 on average, and that's just me spitting something out here.
Mm.
Um, yeah, they're okay. You know,
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't. I mean, to each their own. I'm sure somebody likes the pineapple because they're making it, you know. But maybe it's just kind of goes back to that soda water thing that I don't like. It was more like the maybe like a flavored soda water, and
what's
add
called
that I don't like.
LaCroix. It's like a LaCroix
Yeah,
mixed with alcohol,
yeah,
sort of. Yeah.
I yeah I don't really like that
And I'll be honest
stuff.
here too. For the rest of the case that I bought, I'm telling you right now, my girlfriend is going to be drinking all those. We're gonna have to.
Uh,
Yeah, I know. If I'm not necessarily feminizing this drink, or I'm not necessarily saying it's only for women. I'm sure it's there's a lot of masculine men types who enjoy it as well. I just don't happen to be one of those people. And it's not Truly's. It's not Truly's fault. I mean, I was against this from the the start, but I know I know it's popular. I know a lot of people like it. You know, we could even try. You said their biggest competitor was White Claw.
White Claw, yeah.
We could try White
Maybe,
Claw one of these seasons. Oh, and let me talk about a little bit of input here for tonight. Now, we had a viewer talk about, you might have noticed, I'm a lot more bright. I'm brighter tonight. And that's because we had a little feedback on the lighting situation. So what I was originally envisioning was kind of, Mike's apartment. We're not, we're not, we don't think we're not high class. This is just an apartment. This is just, this is where your every person. I won't say every man. Your every person lives. We were renting an apartment, but I was told the lighting was too dark, and I thought it would give it more of a intimate whatever. I guess I was wrong. So I did crank up the lighting a little bit,
mm.
as you may have noticed, and then yeah, but definitely there's some feedback. I haven't had a lot of feedback on the drinks. I know you have, Tom, and we can't necessarily. I don't want to cover things that we haven't actually done yet, but just because I don't want people to be expecting episodes on
Yeah.
something that we're not able
Well,
to
I don't
actually
think I've had
do.
any feedback on the shows we've done on the drinks as much as when I've like say bought something and asked about it. They're like, yeah, it's okay, or mention it to a friend of mine. He's like, yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I wouldn't buy it, but it's like,
Hey, the kids like it.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
All those kids like it. All right. Well, anyways, all right. So we have truly reviewed. Truly, we I think like with Star Trek, we have only yet begun. Honestly, we could go back and do some more Star Wars. We could do some more Lord of the Rings. There's several. I mean, there's several franchise. Marvel. DC comic. We could review a million things, and I think we'd have stuff. But yeah, we're approaching an hour here. We're over an hour here, and we don't
Oh dang.
we don't ever go this far. So, what I'll just say is this: please like, subscribe, share, leave comments, positive and negative, and leave your dislikes too. That's fine too. If you hate what the hell we're talking about, let us know. Also, Tom has a channel. It's shared in the description of every single episode of Mike's Apartment. So go ahead, check out Tom's channel. I think once we start getting some paying customers, we can afford to get Tom a new audio board so he can maybe make some more music. But I know,
Yeah,
like for example,
I
my
might I
nephew
might be
loved
able
it.
to fix that before that, but
Hopefully, yeah. But anyways, yeah. Tell us what you want. We are here to entertain you. Tom, any closing thoughts? Anything you'd like to say?
no, I mean, I'd recommend people give Truly a try. Yeah,
Truly try
listen
it.
to that. Listen to that. Was that assonance? The repetition of sounds. But yeah, no, it's all right. I mean, You might like the pineapple. I hated it, but I know that there are people that like things that I am like, down thumbs down on. But yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, it was fun talking about Star Trek. There was just so much. Maybe we should have just stuck to TNG.
We're
But
gonna have to be a little more structured, I guess. Maybe I don't know, but I think we're good for
but
tonight, though.
yeah, no, thanks for watching and yeah, set the reminder too if that reminder bell if you want to know when we've posted stuff. So Mike does a lot of other videos too on various foods from like oysters to spam to
Yeah, my
uh, uh,
preservatives. Yeah,
yeah, using preservatives in the cheese and stuff. It's good.
I try.
So
I try. But all right, Tom. Well, thank you all for watching Mike's apartment. We hope you'll keep watching us, and we'll see you later. Thank you.
good night.